Welcome to another episode of Joe and the Fat Man. Joe Smelter, joined as always by Kyle Fatman Golick. Both of us are of Nittany Sports Now, and we're going to do things a little differently tonight. Not only are we going to talk about Penn State hockey, which we've never done before on this show, we are going to dedicate an entire episode of Joe and the Fat Man to Penn State hockey. The reason for this, in case you've been living under a rock, is that Penn State has landed the projected number one pick in next year's NHL draft, Gavin McKenna. McKenna announced his commitment to Penn State on ESPN Tuesday night. This is being recorded Wednesday night. And not only is he the top prospect for next year's draft, he's thought to be the best prospect since Connor McDavid about a decade ago. That man, this was already a damn good recruiting class for Penn State. Jackson Smith, who just won 14th overall to the Blue Jackets, is in the fold. Luke Misa and Pierce Mumbai, a pair of five stars, are also in the fold. Not to mention Coach Guy Godowski's son, Mac, a Hobie Baker finalist who transferred in from Army. But Gavin McKenna tops them all, doesn't he?
This is unparalleled. And I hope our viewers, listeners took a chance to read my column today about, the big gamble with this. This is like on any other strata. I would challenge anyone to go look at a list of Hobie Baker Award winners, which is hockey's equivalent to the Heisman Trophy, and see how many of them you can name, or like how many of them actually became NHL Hall of Famers. And I think the only one that has is Paul Correa. So this this here is, to epic level of proportions, the biggest news. And think about it. You brought up Jackson, who just went, I believe, 14th or 15th overall with the Columbus Blue Jackets in this recent
Yep,
NHL
14th.
NHL draft. You know, you're talking right now in a lot of the jokes that I'm even getting from folks is the best NHL team in the state of Pennsylvania next year is going to be at Penn State. Um, a nice backhanded compliment to the Flyers. Not sure if our producer Jay Hallahan would take as kindly to it as we do with it, but this is, I don't have, it should, the expectations for this one year have to be through the roof. And we'll probably get into it here, but I can't, Joe, I don't know, like I'm a hockey nut, and I don't know what your knowledge of the rink is, but when you start looking at NCAA hockey and you really start looking at like the greatest players that play, they don't come to the NCAA. They
Nope.
will find their way to major junior hockey up in Canada in the CHL. Um, this is such a turn of events. I mean, this would be like, I mean, it's so undescribable. I mean, my loss of words should just tell you how crazy this is. This would be like, think about how PGA and the Live Tour just propped up about a year or two ago. This is on par with like a young Tiger Woods saying, I've done the Tiger Slam. This would be like Tiger Woods after winning 3 U.S. amateurs at the collegiate level saying, "Hey, I'm not going to the PGA. I'm just going to live." I mean, this is different. This is so different. I mean, there's going to be a ripple from this, and we're probably going to discuss a little bit of this here tonight.
Yeah. It's just absolutely massive. And Penn State might not be done yet. They are said to be in the mix for Porter Matrone, who just went sixth overall in the NHL draft to the Flyers. And the PA fans of PA hockey are going to be very interested in this Penn State program, Kyle, because for one, Penguins fans, knowing full well that team's luck with getting number one picks has been very good. People are already tweeting wanting McKenna to fall to the Penguins. And then Flyers fans, many of which are Penn State sports fans to begin with Philadelphia being close by, same with Pittsburgh being close by, wanted their number one pick might well be coming to Penn State too. So yeah, it's just absolutely massive. And McKenna's NIL deal is reported to be well over 500,000, which would be the highest in hockey history. No surprise there. And you got to think that Terry Pagula's hands are all over this, right?
1000%. I mean, the rumor, from what I'm hearing from the folks up north from TSN, is that he got 1 million Canadian, which would be about 700,000 US dollars. I mean, that number's also been floated by the New York Times as well on their athletic. This is it's just the insanity that um I I believe Medicine Hat is his team that he was at this past season, was doing everything under the sun to keep him there for one more season, because that's all he had left before he was going to the NHL. He's in the same vein as Connor Bedard, who played out there. He's going to go number one. So they wanted that one more year, and they were doing everything feasible to hold on to him. This is, you know, Joe, if Penn State somehow isn't done with this, and I'm trying to, you just said the player's name, and I'm just blanking on it. What's that?
Porter Matrone.
Yeah, if they're able to get Porter Matrone here, this this is obscene. You know, they essentially have what would be the for the incoming class, three or four of the top 15 players going to the NHL next season. Like, if and there's only been one team that has ever gone undefeated in college hockey, to my knowledge, and that was the Cornell team in 69 70. And Ken Dryden, who, I will argue with hockey nuts that Ken Dryden's the greatest goalie ever. And this is
I
over
agree.
Dominic Hasek, Patrick Waugh, etc. He wasn't even on that team. That team went undefeated. Paul Kariya's main team in the early 90s went, I think, 42-1. This team, I mean, Joe, I mean, you if they get Porter Matrone with Gavin McKenna in Jackson Smith there, is the loss column 2, 1, maybe even 0. I mean, right now it's so ripe
Mm.
for them to do something that is very infrequent in collegiate hockey.
Yeah, they're a 4-1 favorite to win the national title right now, per ESPN bet, and why wouldn't they be? With the talent they're bringing in, plus this is a team that went to the Final Four last year, so it's not like Penn
The
State's
cupboard's
just
bare. Not was the cupboard wasn't
right.
bare. It just got absolutely stacked.
Yeah, and they almost went to the Frozen Four 2 seasons ago in 2023, losing to Michigan in overtime. But talking about Gavin McKenna playing, as you mentioned, for the Medicine Hat Tigers of the WHL, he scored 129 points last season and got the David Branch Player of the Year award, presented annually to Canada's top amateur player. Mary Lemieux, Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid all won that award too. And uh, we're not. I think it's too early to say that McKenna is cut from that cloth because those were three of the greatest to ever play the game. But still, this is a guy that big things are expected of, and he's going to be expected to dominate the Big Ten. And now there's a lot of pressure on Guy Gadowski this season. James Franklin's always going to have the most pressure, but people are expecting big things out of this hockey program, and among the people expecting them are people that probably didn't pay much attention to it before.
This is Joe. This is program and legacy altering for all around here. Penn State has put all its chips in the center of wanting to become the elite program, not just in the Big Ten, but the country. I mean, Wisconsin has an amazing hockey history. I mean, Badger Bob Johnson, for those who are Penguins fans, that's where he got a lot of his chops. Like Minnesota had Herb Brooks, the guy who did the Miracle on Ice. You know, Michigan, I mean, Red Berenson is an absolute coaching icon who was a former Canadian who got admission to 800 wins. This is huge. Michigan State even has a great hockey program. And Michigan State was in it for McKenna all the way up until the end there. And when you start thinking about it, um, Rick Comley, who's another major name in the history of collegiate hockey's there. Um, Jack Parker, Murray Armstrong. These are like the coaching icons. And right now, Guy Godowski has an opportunity. Now, this is a one year thing with this group. Well, that's know this right now. This one of the parallels that I'm starting to think on is, Joe, do you remember, and this is another Western PA native, when John Calipari was down in Kentucky, that 2012 2013 Kentucky Wildcats team, that one and done team with Anthony Davis and Michael Kidd Gilchrist. This is the same sort of thing here in a collegiate hockey world. Like, these guys are going to be together a year. This is a chance to be program altering. If they do something that hasn't been done, like a national championship is right now, like the bare minimum. When you're saying like winning it all is like minimum level of acceptance, and when you look at collegiate hockey, these sort of stacked rosters don't happen in the NCAA. They may in about a decade, with how NIL might help impact major junior hockey with the CHL big three up there between OHL, QM, JHL, and the Western League. This Penn State has an opportunity to position itself as the preeminent hockey power moving forward. Guy Godowski has a chance to put himself amongst the biggest names in the history of the sport. This year is a very legacy year here. I can't emphasize this enough. Like, I've been following college hockey for about 20 years. I don't think there's ever been a team I can think of even remotely close to this, Joe. I can't even, like, it's just not even in the thing. I brought up the main team with Paul Correa back in the 90s. You know, you know, some of Jack Sauer's Wisconsin teams were awfully good, but I can't, Joe. Like, when you look at the names on there, none of them had like first round prodigy and then just talent stacked like Penn State has. This is just, I'm hoping my reaction to this is how, like, the audience should be perceiving this. Like, this is way different. This is completely earth shattering.
Absolutely. It all begins the weekend of October 3rd and 4th at Arizona State. Penn State football that weekend is playing UCLA at the Rose Bowl, so there's probably going to be a few Penn State fans that are going to go to the UCLA game Saturday and go to the Arizona State game Friday night. Could make for a pretty fun trip, but that's going to do it for segment one of Joe and the Fat Man. In segment two, we'll talk about hockey and football. Which team is more likely to win a national championship this season? Both of them are going to be awfully good. Stay right here for segment two of Joe and the Fat Man.
Do you like the first segment?
Yeah, that was good. What do you think?
I liked it. It was it was really smooth.
Yeah, I thought so too. All right, we about ready?
Mhm.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to segment two of Joe and the Fat Man. Joe Smeltzer, Kyle Fatman Golick with you as always. Penn State has multiple athletic programs that can win national titles in 2025-26. Wrestling and volleyball are two big ones, having just won national titles in 2024-25. But football and hockey are the two that intrigue me the most, simply because football hasn't won a national title in almost 40 years and hockey has never done it. Both of these programs have the talent to win. Both of them made it to the Final Four last year, and both will be ranked at the top, if not very close to the top, whenever preseason polls come out. So I want to give a shout out to my colleagues on the Penn State beat, Lexi Linderman and Chase Fisher with the Daily Collegian, who wrote a dueling column about this. Kyle, of Penn State football and Penn State hockey, which is more likely to win a national title and why?
Penn, Penn State hockey. It's not even close. It's nothing against what Frank. I understand. Frank, Phil Steele just named Penn State his number one preseason number one, and they're absolutely loaded. But football, you got to go through 16 games at minimum for a national championship, and you know we can poke holes in this with hockey. There's It's not even remotely close where Penn State is Penn State men's hockey has put itself with the talent they just infused into this team, kind of like where Penn State's wrestling program is. It's just like Penn State's going to win a national championship. It's just going to be in what style. I mean, there would have to be something catastrophic that happens in hockey, like an injury to McKenna, or just like COVID 2026 happens. We hope that don't happen. But I really think Penn State will be celebrating a hockey national championship. If what's one's most likely to happen, I see hockey over football. What say you?
Yeah, I think I go with hockey too. Just because, as you mentioned, Kyle, nobody really goes undefeated in college hockey, but in football, going undefeated definitely is not a requirement anymore to make it to the playoff with 12 teams. But you got to come pretty close to going undefeated, right? 10-2 is the absolute minimum to make it to the college football playoff. And if Penn State loses 2 games, it doesn't take a lot to lose 2 games, just one bad day at the office, one team that's better than you, one injury, whatever, that could lead to a season being wrecked. Hockey, it really isn't that way to the same extent. So I definitely see hockey winning it all. If hockey doesn't win it all, what do you think the fan reaction is? Do you think because hockey is still not going to be at the level that Penn State football and wrestling are in terms of fan support goes, that there isn't going to be as much outrage, or what do you
So
think
this is a really good question. So I think with Penn State fans with football, if say Penn State were to make it again to the college football playoff semifinal, again, it's a very successful season. I don't think it'll, if they lose in a heartbreaking fashion, I like we saw heartbreak at the Orange Bowl. You were there, you saw it. I don't think, like, from a heartbreak perspective it could get worse than that. I mean, it could, but let's just say that that's as bad as it can be from that perspective. If Penn State were to go to the Orange, it's either, I think this year the semifinals are at the Fiesta or Peach Bowls. So if they get to either one of those and say they just get waxed, we'll say like a 33-7, 33-14 type game. You know, I think that's the only way that there would be any significant outrage from them. If they get to that point, it's just like, it's one of those things that they would eat. If hockey were to lose the not win a national championship, I think the outrage would be, what why was all this money spent? Obviously there was an interest. We're going to assume that, Terry Pagula had his hand in there in some way. We don't want to say it's official, but the guy did put down $60 million to get this program going. I mean, to think that he had nothing involved with this would be a little disingenuous. Um, I think the fans, I don't know if there would be an outrage. It would be, how sometimes you just get real feverishly angry at something, like in the immediate of something. And then after a while, it's just like, you're like, eh. And I think that's what would happen with the hockey. I, I, I think. I think hockey would have a higher pitch of anger at first. I think the football would have the longer duration of backlash, if that makes sense.
Yeah, although Penn State fans, I found in my time on the beat that when they have a reason to be mad about something, they can get pretty mad about it, regardless of the sport. If you remember a few years ago, when Penn State basketball had their run in March, I thought it was just going to be a fad, right? But then when Micah Shrewsbury left, people were upset. And they were upset for weeks, and the basketball program was the talk of Penn State sports for probably darn near a month after that. So, I don't know, like because hockey doesn't have the following that wrestling and certainly football do. I would want to say that it would be something that would just kind of come and go. But then again, I remember how big a deal it was when Micah Shrewsbury left the basketball program, given how little Penn State fans generally care about basketball. So,
I I I,
I don't
I
know.
think I think Penn State hockey is going to have more of a following this year for obvious reasons. I mean, you don't just capture this sort of attention and not gain a lot of fans along the way. But why I feel it'll be higher impact early, but kind of wane more as football carries. It's just simply because football is more the school's identity. Like, if I go up to if I'm going to someone like, hey, who's your school, and you say Penn State, we're not just starting off with a hockey conversation or even a wrestling conversation unless that person is. It's typically football. Um, and I just think if Penn State doesn't get it done this year, especially with where it has, it's going to be like this anger and outburst that's going to be there, like you say, Joe, not just like a month, but for months, and it's going to be at like an 8 or a 9 level consistently. I think with the hockey, if they were to say lose in either the semifinal or the national championship, I think it'd be like at a 10 out of 10 for about a month, but it would dip to about like a 6 or 7 and just wane from there. I think football, it'll just be angry until, like, even if you know, it may be angry for years if they don't get it done this year. That's the thing. But I think if Penn State hockey doesn't get it done from the get go, I think because of how stacked it is and how NCAA hockey isn't at a point where there's really anyone even comparable to having the talent that Penn State has. I think that's why it'll be for that month or so at a fever pitch.
You think if Penn State doesn't win it all this year, that's the most disappointing athletic program in Penn State history?
In winning it all, as in the football program,
No, I'm talking about hockey.
yes, by far and away, yes. It this the the talent level, like, there's not even a comparable to Gavin McKenna in NCAA hockey right now. Like, if you look at it, it's like, when you think of college football, you look at Jeremiah Smith is seen as the best player in college football by folks. But you know what? There's so many rivals. Like Penn State, we can boast, hey, we got Nick Singleton, we have Drew Alar, we have, you know, Ohio State also has Caleb Downs. We got denied Dennis Sutton. Everyone kind of has that guy. Like, it's like if Jeremiah Smith's a 99 at the receiver overall, Nick Singleton's maybe a 97, 98. Drew Alar's maybe a 98, 99. It's like it's close. It's not even close. Like Gavin McKenna and Jackson Smith and a lot of other guys, it's it's such a gap. It's like I don't I don't want to go. This may sound, over the top, but I'm going to go there. Penn State has a 92 dream team situation going with hockey.
Wow.
It's like, it shouldn't even be remotely, like, I don't like, they're not going to embarrass people 8-0 every night. I don't want people to think that, but they should be in a position where they're winning most of their games 3-2, 4-3, 5-2, they have so much firepower and such good defense. It would just have to be something that caused them not to win it.
What do you think right now is the most disappointing team in Penn State sports history? Few of
Ooh,
them come to
ooh,
mind. 78 football, maybe.
ooh, that's a good one. Um,
Yeah, this would be a
so
good article for the future. So
this it it would be. To me, when I think of football, I don't think I don't think any team disappointed harder in my lifetime than the '99 Penn State football team. And if
that's a good choice. That might be mine too.
I know I'm not making any friends with LeVar Arrington on this one, but
No, I'm sure he would agree.
I mean, they were preseason number 1. Well, no, they weren't preseason number 1, they were number 4 because they played Arizona, who was number 3. But they were SI's number 1 team because we all remember the iconic LeVar cover. But to start 9-0 and then collapse to 9-3, especially the Michigan State loss that to end that season, because they still had an outside shot at a major bowl. And the fact that they lost the game the way they did was extremely disappointing. 97's also up there because they were preseason number 1 and they just they waned. So here's the thing, the 78 team, I don't think they were disappointing at all. I mean, they were supposed to do well. They did well. I mean, they lost the national championship. I don't think that's disappointing. Like 85 was they came out of nowhere to play for the national championship.
Right.
So you can't beat up on that. Another year, and this probably is one is the 1979 team because that team, Joe Pa wasn't involved with the squad whatsoever. Like he even said 79 was just like what happened. Matt Millen was in all kinds of trouble. He probably would talk about how that team had a lot of great players and had the potential to do more, but just that heart hangover from 78 probably made it one of the more disappointing teams. Yeah, I'm just trying to like those are the teams that come right off the top of my head there. I think 2020 it will always be like a very disappointing year
Yeah,
because
21 too, going from
yeah,
being number 4 to 7 and 6.
yeah. Well, what sucks with 2020 is it's hard to punish Penn State for a global pandemic, but essentially that global pandemic did a number on the team that year. So
Yep. Definitely a good article for the future on Nittany Sports Now. You might be seeing that soon. But in the meantime, we're going to head for our third and final segment of Joe and the Fat Man. It's the box of mystery. I don't know what it is yet. The only person that knows is the Fat Man himself.